How many of you hello? How many of you heard of Jetpack Compose? How do you like it so far? Anyone tried to do something with Jetpack Compose? Okay. So Piyush told almost everything regarding me. These are the details, and here are book links or names. You can search online, and if you buy those books, I will get a little bit of royalty. So that will be a help to me. I want a big shout out for this guy. Anyone heard of his name? Anyone? So the team which works on Jetpack Compose, he is part of that team, and he is really active on all social channels for Jetpack Compose and on all Slack groups. So there's a Slack channel called Kotlin and he is active on that Slack channel in the Jetpack Compose Slack group. So I almost learned everything or many things about Compose from him only. While discussing with him, when I asked a question to him or when anyone else asks, he always answers them pretty quickly. And yeah, big shout out to this guy. So, what are we going to talk about today? Why should we care about Compose? How to use Jetpack Compose? How Compose works? And a bit about how to manage states with Compose. So, let us start. Why should we care? Anyone, any idea? Which icon is this? Swift UI. This one? Swift was the, oh, okay, sorry. This one. Yeah. This one? Anyone saw this icon before? Exactly, litho. Yeah. That icon is actually for Jetpack, not specifically for Jetpack Compose, but yeah, that serves the purpose. So, can anyone tell me the similarities between all these icons? Any idea? What are the similarities? Yeah. All are for UI, all are for functional UI development, all are for reactive. At least Jetpack Compose is. I am not quite sure about others, because I don't develop using them. I don't develop using Jetpack Compose either, but I did a bit research on it. So, there's a craze, as you can see in the market right now, there's a craze about functional declarative UI. And as experts say, that pretty soon functional UI development will become the way of UI development. Now it is one of the ways, soon it will become the way. So, what are the benefits we get using Jetpack Compose? It is one of the reasons why should we care. First of all, separation of concerns, then declarative and plus functional and or reactive. DSL. Can anyone tell me the benefits of DSL? Anyone? Okay. The benefit of using DSL is that you define your own language. So it is pretty easy to read and write. It's like writing instructions than writing code. It's developer friendly. Yeah. Can you see the text? I think it's also there for people in the back. This is a tweet by Saket Narayanan. Have you heard of Saket Narayanan? Saket? Yeah. He is Android GD from India. He recently moved to Canada to work for Square. Now don't tell me that you haven't heard of Square. Yeah. He tweeted this a few days ago, a couple of days, I guess. So he started doing the UI in Kotlin DSL. He's using his own DSL right now because Jetpack Compose is in pre-alpha right now. Forget about production ready, it's in pre-alpha. It's not recommended to use it, or it's very complex to use it in your production projects right now. Again, coming back to benefits, flattened UI. Now, what's a flattened? What means by flattened UI? I will discuss that in how Jetpack Compose works. Less compile time overhead. So, what happens with XML is that, why? Earlier the tweet was about that Jetpack, like Android Studio gets slow when writing XML, right? Why? Because it's constantly compiling the XML. Whenever you make a change, it's compiling it. With Jetpack Compose, you are writing Kotlin code, simple Kotlin code or functions. So the compile overhead is much less than compiling XML. Better performance, less memory wastage. How? I will dive into later. Now, how to use Jetpack Compose? So, before diving into how Jetpack Compose works, how we manage states with Jetpack Compose, or how Jetpack Compose saves memory, let us have a look at what is Jetpack Compose. How is it to write UIs with Jetpack Compose? So, everything is fun and lambda. Anyone got that? What this sentence means? Okay, let me ask you, how many of you used Kotlin before? You are using Kotlin? Great. So, what is a lambda? I don't want the textbook definition. You know. Not single line function actually. It's like passing function as a variable. Fun means when in Kotlin, when you write a function using Kotlin, you write the word fun. You start the function with the word fun. So, can anyone tell me what this means? What this will do? Anyone? I will give you a t-shirt if you can tell me. Can anyone give him a mic? Mic is here.
Aligns the text in center.
Yeah, exactly. So both of you meet me after my session. I will give you t-shirts. It was pretty simple for them. For others, let me explain. It will create a text view. We don't call it views right now to avoid complexities and to avoid being confused with views and Jetpack Compose. So it will write this text, whatever you pass to the custom text function, in the center of the parent layout or the total layout. have anyone ever created a custom text view? How complex is that? Yeah, so in present way, if you want to have your custom text view, say here I just use textalign.center. Like for that text view, alignment will be in center. You can do anything on that text view you want in this function, but to do that in present way, it's a lot complex. You have to extend the text view, then you have to use the text view everywhere in XML layouts and everywhere, and most often you miss out. So with Jetpack Compose, you are just creating a function, and it's pretty to replace a function call than to replace a class invocation, especially in the XML layouts. Add that composable. If you have seen my previous slide cautiously, then you have probably saw that before the function there was a annotation at that composable. So there's some magic in Compose. I know that developers don't like magic. I myself don't like magic, but this magic was necessary. So this is the thing that the compiler reads, or that goes to the Android system, and at that composable annotation converts my previous code or my code to this unreadable code. That's how at that composable works, and that's why it is necessary. So anyone familiar with reactive approach here? Okay. So in reactive approach, we emit values, right? Or emit behaviors or values, right? So here you can see that first it will emit a blank text view, and then it will emit its value and its properties, how it will look. So it's reactive in nature. That's where we get it. So anything is not quite bit easy to understand until you use them. So here's a counter app. Pretty simple app. We'll develop this app. So this is the screen. We need a text view to display the count. Then there's a button. When you click on the button, the counter will increase by 1. Just like that. Now, as I said, Compose is in pre-alpha state right now. So there's a lot of complexity on if you want to use Compose. Like you have to download the AOSP first, then you have to run a special version of Android Studio from that AOSP project. And there are a few frustrating things that can happen when using Compose right now. One of these is changing the button background while using a custom theme. Don't blame me for this unreadable button or like it's burning your eyes. I know that. So that's the whole code in the activity for this app. Inside onCreate, just that, nothing else. So we'll break down each of the lines here and see what they does. Anyone can read the text? So many people told me that don't put text in the presentation, and I do believe that it's better not to put text in presentation, but this one was necessary. So crane wrapper was the first line inside set content. So instead of set content view, we'll call set content with Jetpack Compose, because we are avoiding the word view to avoid confusion. So here what happens? So here what happens that the crane wrapper actually wraps your, or rather it builds your foundation so that you can build your own custom views. It might be removed in future, or it might get wrapped inside the set content. Inside Crane Wrapper we used custom theme. So custom theme is nothing but we modified the material theme a bit and named it custom theme. You can name it whatever you want. So wanna have a look what's inside? Wanna have a look what's inside the custom theme? That's our custom theme. Writing custom themes also got easier. Can anyone tell me what they does when they writes custom themes right now in XML? What is the process? Yeah. And how much do you like the process? Yeah. That's the answer I was looking for. Thanks for that. No one likes writing custom themes right now. Is there anyone who likes writing custom theme in present way? Thanks. So that was the custom theme. Just provide the color list which will contain the primary color, secondary color and all the colors. The typography with your custom font set, and it's done. If you want to do anything else, you can do it. For me, I just did these things. Now, we talked about everything in this code except the counter function. So let us now dive into the counter function. So we created a text first and then we created a button. A bit closer look. Closer look into the text function invocation in the button function invocation. And the whole one. So we created a text first and then a button. That is what I get. Anyone, any idea why this happened? Everyone can hear me, right? Any idea why this happened? So how Compose works is pretty like a frame layout right now for giving height and width to, or for placing views over another. So if you don't align your views properly in frame layout or relative layout, one view will be going on top of another. And in Compose, if you don't provide a height, they will get match parent. If you don't provide a height width and don't align the view. This is the corrected version. This should look fine. Anyone can read it, read the code? I knew that. So I cut down a few lines, and so what we have here, we have the column, row, and then the text view. Then again another row at the button. So how does that work? There's a column and text view is on the first row, button is on the second row. So that was pretty simple for me. Here, it describes a lot better. So inside column, row, and then we have a padding. It's not necessary, but it's better if you have a padding. Then text view, Then again we started another row, then button, and the designing part is done. Now actual functionality. So here in the first line of counter function we have a variable called counter state. Now what does that do? How state works we will look into later, but what it does, let us understand. So whenever a state changes, that function will be recomposed. What is recomposed? Like it will emit again with newer values. Any doubts? I think I should have a question at that point of time. Okay. So everyone is sleeping. Pretty good. It's good to have a sleep after the lunch, you know. A closer look at the code. So whenever state changes, the value of text should change. Now when the state will change, look inside the code of button. Yeah, exactly. Thanks. Someone is not sleeping. So whenever someone presses the button in the on click, we just increment the value of the state. Now you will say that counter state should be an integer value. So why we are writing counter state dot value plus plus? So whenever you put that plus state and then lambda, whatever inside that lambda is integer right now, right? That will get wrapped into a different data type called state. And to increment a value of the state or to access the value of the state, you have to call state.value. And whenever you change a value of the state, it makes the function or the composer function to recompose or to emit new value of the views with new state value. Again a closer look. Now this works. Now how all this happens? Anyone heard of the word gap buffer? Anyone? Okay, I expected that. Even I haven't heard about the word gap buffer before diving into compose. So this is how gap buffer looks when you draw them. Gap buffer is a kind of the most efficient buffer for text editors. So how many of here have created your own custom text editors, not just extending the edit text view? Anyone created? No. You created your own custom text editor without extending edit text view. No, not extending view. Yeah, extending view you can, but complete text editor without buffer, with buffer. You didn't have the buffer functionality, right? So text editors have buffer. Any efficient text editor you can find, including Android's edit text, including any text editor in JavaScript, they do have a buffer. So using array with text editor can be like costly. Why? You can array is generally least costful, right? It's pretty simple to move objects in the editor, in the array and insert. Have you ever tried to insert an item at the front of the array? What's the time complexity for that? Of inserting an item at the front of the array? Exactly, order of n. That's why gap buffer comes in. It's order of 1 for gap buffer. How it works? It has a few empty slots and it reorders those empty slots. You want to add anything in the front, it will take one empty slot from here, put it in the front, and it's done. So the compose team use the same gap buffer thing, modified it a little, and called it slot table. But the advantages and disadvantages stays the same. That's how slot table looks. So we now have an index, current index. Whenever an item is inserted, the index is shifted. So let us now understand how this will be compiled or how this will be executed. So whenever there's an statement, it goes into the slot table with a name. So first we encounter with state, right? It gets allocated a group in the slot table. And then its value, which is right now state of 0. Then the text gets into the slot. And then the value of the text, which is right now count 0. Then the button goes as a group. Then the on-click value of the button. Now, someone clicks on on-click. What will happen? It will recompose, like it will emit updated values. How? It will just make the state as 1 and that text was referring to state. The value will be updated here. There's no reason to redraw the entire thing. This is the present way how Android XML view structure is kept in memory as a tree. This is how compose will be stored in memory. Now, anyone has a doubt why compose is safer in terms of memory or better in terms of memory? Instead of this tree, you will be saving this buffer, which is more efficient than array. Now, when using compose, a lot of things will change. One of these examples are state management. State management was from the beginning an issue in Android. Anyone agrees or disagrees? Agree or disagree? Yeah, thank you. So to solve the state management issue, we introduced a lot of architectures. Some of them are reactive. Or latest one of them are reactive, I would say. Now, when it comes to reactive architecture, it is quite normal thing in web. Like if you go into the other room, everyone is using reactive architecture. It's not an issue, and it's quite pretty normal to them. When it comes to Android views, or let me not spoil my slides. Let me show you. So that is the state class with any reactive architecture. You create a state class like that. You create intents. I am right now showing the MVI one. But with any reactive architecture, you create intents and in the activity or in the view, and from the view model, you subscribe to those intents and fire your business model from those intents, right? Here's the problem I was talking about. Android view structure was never planned in a reactive way. It's imperative by its core, right? So it's pretty difficult when you try to implement a reactive architecture with Android present view structure. This is the problem number 2. Spinner adapter, on item selected listener, so many things. So if we go back to the reactive cycle or Redux cycle, there should be one flow, one state. But here spinner or edit text both have separate states. So you are not only maintaining your view state, you are also maintaining your edit text state, your spinner state. If you have gone through the IO videos, Roman Gee has great input about why this is called spinner. You should go through that. So let's see how the solution works. So again, we'll be building another app, stateful app this time. What we regularly do. Counter is a simple example. We don't do it regularly, or we don't do it. It's not solving anything. So let's build a stateful app. It will load something from anywhere and display it. And it's now displaying my name and email. So let's take it as a data. For example, we want to have user's name and email to be displayed in the UI after loading. So that's the data. That's the view state. We have a loading view state. We have a failure view state. We have a success view state. Now this is a GIF. I only recorded the success case. I forgot to record the failure case, you can say, or I ignored it. So you can only view the success state here. It's loading and the success. Presenter. You can call it presenter or view model, whatever you want. But the main thing is same. It will get the user asynchronously and it should update the view in a reactive way. Now let's see how the UI code will look. So that's the body part on the success case. So in the body part, as you can see, we have again row, column for name and email, and below that we have a reload button which is exactly in the center of the UI. And we have this reload button takes a lambda called on reload click. I will come back to the reload button later, but that body also expects on reload click lambda, which is then passed to the reload button. This is error body. So in case of error, it will display error loading data and it will show the reload button. Error body also expects a lambda on reload click and it passes that lambda onto on reload button. This is the much talked about reload button. It's just a simple button with a just inside the, for the on click, we are passing the on reload click, that lambda. So whenever someone presses the on reload button, it will invoke the on reload click function from body or from error body. Again, user view state. Now, in Compose, there are mainly two ways how you can implement the state management. We are going with approach 1 first. So here's the activity code for approach 1, the whole activity, not only on create. Pretty clean, right? But we are passing the presenter to the composable. Lot of code here. So whenever state changes, we check what is the state. If it is loading, we are using on commit. Now, what is on commit? So, as we have seen that Compose emits values and behaviors. Now, if you emit a lambda, or if you start executing a lambda while it was emitting the view to the UI, it may cause some issues, right? So on complete will make sure that this lambda gets called only after emitting the current view. So in the on commit, we are calling presenter dot get user async, and we are getting the user value. And upon getting the user value, we are updating the state with here we save the state as data, or we name the variable as data, and we are updating data.value. That means we are updating the state. On the failure case, we are showing the error body. Now, we have a on reload click button here only as a separate function. We are not getting it from the activity. Again, a closer look at how the state value is changing inside on commit. And yeah, so this is the activity code, clean, but we are passing the presenter here, and all the logic is inside composable. That means all the logic is inside your UI part. Most people don't like it. That's why data binding doesn't got much focus that Google expected. Anyone using data binding here? Okay, how do you like it? Yeah. So that's why some people like it. So that's why they kept that state option. But there's another way. I would not say better, because some people do like data binding, some people don't. The approach 1 was pretty like data binding. You have all the logic inside the UI part, all UI related logic, and activity is pretty clean, much like data binding. Here is activity 2 activity, approach 2 activity, sorry. So in the approach 2 activity has a lot of code. Let's see what that does. So right now we can see, sorry, we can't see anything. So here's the composable for the approach 2. I named it as a model composable. Why? You will know when you actually see the activity code. Again, unreadable code. I made it readable. A success for me. So here's the onCreate part. It was looking like it has a lot of code, but it actually has onCreate function and a load data function. So, and also it has a variable called model, state model. So inside the onCreate function, we are passing the state model to the composable, and also we are passing an reference to the load data function. By putting double colon before a function or local function, you can pass it as a lambda to the high order function. Anyone knows what a high order function is? Only two people. No one else knows what a high order function is? Okay, many people. Exactly. So high order function expects another function as a parameter. And by putting double colon, you can pass a simple local function as that parameter or lambda. This is the load data function. It just subscribes to the state change and it makes those changes to the state model variable. Now, here's the state model variable in the activity what we have, and below is the definition of or declaration of the class. Now, as you can see, instead of seal classes, like what we do in normal Redux approach, we are using a data class called state model. Now, why data class instead of seal class for view state changes? So right now that model annotation only supports data classes. What it does is that it is much like the state, but state would only work when it's inside a composable. But a model class can be outside a composable, and you don't have to work with it with state.value or data.value. You can directly update the instance of the model class, and it will update the composable. Thank you. Hello. 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 So what happens is that whenever you update the value of the state model class, that model will ensure that this instance emits a update to the composable, and that actually updates the view. Just like that. So instead of if else ladder, we can have when. That is a better approach. I just showed that if else also works in Kotlin. So if the state is loading, we are showing loading. If the state is success, we are showing the body, success body. If the state is failure, we are showing the failure state. But the data comes from the activity, and whenever the data updates, it will emit again. Simple. And these are some resources. You can copy the links, or I will publish this slide in my website, rivu.dev. Do visit that. There's a small notation at the left bottom corner of my slide. Do visit that website. It's my own blog, and I will publish this slide as well there. Any questions so far? I think we have time. We have? We have time, Piyush? We don't have. Okay. Then questions will be offline. Thank you.